how did the Dutch manage to set up this empire around the world? How did they do that?
Well, there was an interesting difference between the way the Dutch did it and the way the British did it.
Right.
The Dutch set up trading posts which they manned with soldiers and traders, and from those bases, they either, depending on circumstances, they either fought with or traded with the locals,
Yeah.
gathered the stuff, and shipped it back home. And that was a very good model for building up an empire in a very short time. The British, however, developed settlement colonies, which is why English is so widely spoken these days. Now, this place, New Amsterdam, for whatever combination of reasons, functioned differently. The people here, soon after they got here, they decided they wanted to put down roots. And they began, therefore, to chafe under the West India Company rule. And they said, we want rights, we want citizenship, we want to be treated like we're members, like we're Dutch citizens. And then they bring in the new man, Stuyvesant.
Right.
But they bring him in not because they agree with the colonists, but because they feel this uprising from the colonists means they need a more powerful ruler here. So we're in the East Village of New York.
Right.
This was the area this was Stuyvesant's farm, his
Right.
boerderij, and the Bowery Road runs up there, which is that is a corruption of the word.
Yeah.
And this was the site of his family chapel. The Church of St. Mark's in the Bowery was built on the foundation of Stuyvesant's family chapel.
He may not have modeled for it, but it is quite a face. He was a tough guy.
Yeah, and it may be the case that losing his leg in the tropics and almost dying from disease, that could have toughened him and strengthened his resolve to do something. And immediately thereafter, he gets his assignment to come here, to this colony, and he then would be determined, especially since there was such turmoil here, to whip it into shape. Stuyvesant first picked the board. He couldn't govern alone. He needed financial support to help build the city. Through that, you had the business leaders of the community developing a political stake in things.
Zakelijke voormannen die politieke leiders worden. De parallel met de hedendaagse samenleving is duidelijk aanwezig. Zo kwamen in het niet-aristocratische Amerika oliebaronnen als George Bush senior en junior in het Witte Huis. En hier in New York vinden we weer een geweldig voorbeeld. Burgemeester Michael Bloomberg, de miljardair zakenman die ook bestuurder is geworden.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to the mayor of the city of New York, Michael Bloomberg.
Today, we do nothing less than unleash the power inside millions of New Yorkers to provide help to those who need it the most. Today, we let loose an army of volunteers who will now find it even easier and more rewarding to give time and care to their neighbors.
Mr. Mayor, New York City is the city of big business. Does money rule politics, or does it
It's
support
the city of big business, and yet 50% of the people work in small businesses.
Yeah.
So think about it, it's not big business. It's not wealthy. We have some very, very wealthy people here. But the average person, kid goes to public school, they have to work, they don't have a lot of money put away for retirement. It's not different than anybody else. What is different about New York is that New Yorkers are willing to express themselves. They have views. You come to New York and everybody's got an opinion on everything. Having an opinion on everything is not bad. It's interesting, it leads to a dialogue, and I think gets you, in the end, better government. You know, ever since the Dutch were nice enough to discover the Hudson River in New York City, we built a society here. We've had a democracy for 235 years. It's not perfect, but it works. The opportunity for everybody is greater here than I think any place else. I mean, I've been reasonably successful. I remember the day I was fired. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It was time to start something new, and I went out and started my business, which turned out okay. We understand that civic service may be the most important thing that most of us will ever do. I know I feel that way. My personal experience with service stretches way back to my days as an Eagle Scout. Since then, the thrill of giving back has never waned. Whether it was during my days on Wall Street, my years in building a business, or now as mayor, today we launch NYC Service.
That's right, Mayor. Is this the greatest city in the world? All around the room. In fact, let's set it off with my man Dennis.
This is Adriaan van der Donk. What role did he play in this upheaval between Stuyvesant and the merchants of New Amsterdam?
Well, he ultimately became the leader of the opposition. Van der Donk was a lawyer trained at Leiden University. He was from the South. He was humanistic in his perspective. Stuyvesant was a Calvinist minister's son. He was rather stern. He was forbidding. He was a company man. So these two, I guess, almost inevitably had to clash. And they clashed, and what they clashed over was this whole question of what this colony was about. Was it, as Stuyvesant was trying to do, maintain the rule of the West India Company, keep business as usual, or Van der Donk's vision of the Dutch government taking direct control of this colony and really turning it into something that hadn't existed before. And it was the struggle between the two of them that I think really led the colony to have a lasting impact on America.
Het is van alle eeuwen dat er mensen opstaan die zich met onuitputtelijke energie inzetten voor de rechten van individuele burgers. Adriaan van der Donk begon er hier ooit mee door de strijd aan te gaan met kolonieleider Peter Stuyvesant. Inzet, meer inspraak voor de Nieuw-Nederlanders in het bestuur van hun kolonie. Burgerrechtenadvocaat Norman Siegel, misschien wel een hedendaagse Van der Donk, voert campagne om public advocate te worden. Een ombudsman die controleert of de gemeente zich houdt aan het New York City Charter, de grondwet van de stad.
My campaign can be summed up in 3 words: freedom, justice, and equality for all, not just some. I still strongly believe that there are hundreds of thousands of people in this city, black, brown, red, yellow, and white together, who still dare to dream about how it's supposed to be, not how it is. And together, we can make those dreams a reality for many New Yorkers. I fight no matter who it is, mayor, controller, city council. If they're doing wrong, you can count on Siegel to go to fight for you. That's why I want to be your public advocate. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Back a little, there you go. I always go too far to the left.
Got it. Your speech was phenomenal, and it's good to hear the sincerity when someone's speaking.
But now they're telling us to do more work, but they're not giving us the proper equipment to do this.
And if they don't do anything, call me and I'll try to help you. Okay? Call me and we'll talk. Okay, bye-bye. Good job. Take care.
Thank you.
I want to be the people's advocate. I want to be the people's lawyer. I don't want to be the mayor. I don't want to be a United States senator. I just want to be with the people fighting government.
I'm sorry, the thing went on and on.
So that the government serves the people the way they're supposed to. We can change the nature of the beast who winds up being the politician.
The beast?
Yes, because the politician very often use the nature of the beast. I don't think they're beasts, but what happens is they get into office and they enjoy the perks and they sort of forget where they came from. They forget who they're representing. The rhetoric, at least for the politicians, is they want to help the people.
I want to check one thing.
Let's help the people together.
Yeah, wait 1 minute. I am different than the other candidates. I'm not a politician. I surely don't want to go to Washington, although with Barack there now, maybe I would want to go there for a little while. Also, I was for Barack Obama in 2007. All the other candidates were for Hillary, and then they switched. I knew from the beginning that was my person that I wanted to support. On inaugural day, tears were coming down my eyes. I thought of all the people, Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, Fannie Lou Hamer. They planted the seeds for this to happen. I think we need to have a civil rights, social justice mindset in the Office of Public Advocate. He fights for people. You fight in the court of public opinion. You fight, you organize, you create the multiracial coalitions that Dr. King taught me about. I want to bring the spirit and the success from the South, up South to New York. The racism is more subtle and sophisticated here, but it still does exist. I will take that issue on every day because so many of the issues here have racial overtones. I know my time is up. I thank you all. You'll come to the inaugural ball and it will be smashing.
Norman, I was wondering, what makes your clock tick?
I don't know. I don't know. I think what makes it tick is the fact that I still am angry. I'm still dissatisfied that people are not respected, especially on the racial part. I was fortunate enough to be with some great Americans like Martin King in the summer of '66 and '67, and I would go to Ebenezer Baptist Church and hear Dr. King speak. In Atlanta, with a friend of mine, Tom Houck, we used to take Dr. King's children to the basketball games. So I was part of that movement, and I once had a conversation with Dr. King, and it was memorable. And in the context of all that, I think that those folks are not here anymore, and it's up to me now to carry the torch in this generation and then hand it off to another generation. And don't get me wrong, I think we've made a lot of incremental progress. But as George Bernard Shaw says, we've got miles to go before we can sleep.
Yo, don't record me, man.
Burgemeester Bloomberg zei het al. In New York heeft iedereen een mening. Maar hoe komt het toch dat Amerikanen, en met name New Yorkers, zo ontzettend goed zijn om hun standpunten naar voren te brengen? Meepraten en meebeslissen, burgerverantwoordelijkheid. Het wordt er hier van oudsher met de paplepel ingegoten. Eigenlijk al vanaf de tijden van de oude kolonie. Dit is Stuyvesant High, waar net als in het gehele middelbare onderwijs de speech- en debatinglessen volledig geïntegreerd zijn in het leerprogramma.
There's a competition coming up in speech and debate.
Right, the state championship, and it's the culmination of our work. We work all the year to qualify for the state championship, and it's my 4th year debating, so I have a lot of experience. So hopefully it'll go well.
You really go for the championship. You think you can win?
I have a chance. Who knows if it's going to happen?
I guess the idea of Congress is that you're given legislation ahead of time, and you're debating that legislation. So it's as if you're on Capitol Hill and like there with the legislators and deciding what President Obama should sign and what he should just throw out the window. I guess you really need to be listening to your opponents a lot of the time and truly like absorbing what they say and thinking about how you can either integrate it if they're on your side or opposing it directly if they're not. If you expose some sort of discrepancy between the source that they've brought in and the claim that they're making. So if you can destroy that link, then it makes you look really smart. All right, we're now in line for legislation regarding Pakistani education. Is there an author present?
There is.
Mr. Puma, you're recognized for a period of 3 minutes, followed by 2 minutes of mandatory cross-examination.
Thank you. Senators, it's imperative that we take the first step today to ensure that Pakistan is going to be stable for the future. Madrasas, known as religiously based schools, are very ineffective inside of the region. First, the madrasas would have less students attending these schools, and second, we'd be giving parents what they want. So by passing today's legislation, we're closing up all the holes in the United States aid currently. Passing today's legislation, we're once again help funding this specific program to ensure that the United States is working with other countries and working with ourselves to help Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Puma. Speech time, 3 minutes, 13 seconds. All questioners, please rise.
I would just say your point about how it helps bolster the program that we already have in the region. That seems to be it doesn't say to me why this specific program is good. It seems to be just saying, well, this program is good, and therefore the bill is good because, look, we're going to give more money to it.
Right, okay.
I thought your points were pretty strong. Along with going fast, there are also some times where I just couldn't hear what words you were saying, not so much because you're going fast, but you weren't, like, enunciating.
Right. Yeah, agreed. You were clipping words again. Make sure that you're going way slower than you even think is acceptable. General rule of thumb, if you think you're going slow, slow down, and then you're going slow enough.
You are both how old?
17.
17.
Both 17. How come you speak so extraordinarily well?
Yeah, we owe a lot to our teachers, of course, and the curriculum specifically makes it clear that to get a good grade, and of course everyone wants good grades, we need to participate in class, and a certain amount of our grade comes out of that participation.
Why is it important for you? This debating.
It provides you a lot of skills that are going to be useful in the future. Not only that are useful now in terms of academic skills, and it's very important. The research skills, the speaking skills are important in academics, but also for the future, for getting jobs, for being successful in that respect.
So you're, in a sense, practicing to be ideal Americans, members of a democracy.
I mean, yes, certainly. I think that part of being a good citizen of a democracy is not only voting, but understanding the issues that you're voting about and discussing them with people and having to form some sort of a discourse, being able to debate and having a starting point for having those debates is a great place to start.
Het is 1649 en Adriaan van der Donk die keert terug uit Nieuw-Nederland naar de Republiek. Waarom eigenlijk?
Hij is dan 8 jaar weg geweest en tegen die tijd is het conflict tussen de WSC en de kolonisten echt behoorlijk stevig geworden. Van der Donk komt dan naar Den Haag om zijn zaak en de zaak van Nieuw-Nederland te bepleiten bij de Staten-Generaal, die in dat kamertje daar vergaderden. Ja. Het gaat in feite om 3 punten. Nieuw-Nederland is verwaarloosd door de WSC. Ze hebben er de verkeerde directeurs naartoe gestuurd. En ze hebben geen oplossing gevonden voor de grensconflicten met de Engelsen. Dus dat zijn de 3 voornaamste punten. Maar tegen die tijd is het conflict natuurlijk zodanig geëscaleerd dat het persoonlijk geworden is.
Ik heb hier een fragment uit het betoog wat hij is gaan houden. En daar zegt hij letterlijk over Stuyvesant. Want wie tegen hem Stuyvesant ingaat, krijgt zo ongeveer de zon en de maan tegenover zich. En ja, hij scheldt en tiert tegen de raadsleden vanwege dit of dat. En met lelijke woorden die eerder thuis horen op een vismarkt dan in een raadzaal. En nadat men dat allemaal heeft moeten verdragen, rust zijn excellentie niet voordat hij zijn zin gekregen heeft. Dus het is een doordrammer.
Stuyvesant heeft natuurlijk wel iets van een doordrammer. En het is ook, laat ik zeggen, een politiek middel om van iemand te zeggen dat hij schreeuwt als een wijf op een vismarkt, terwijl het een bestuurder is. Dat is niet de houding die past bij een bestuurder. Dus hij probeert echt hier Stuyvesant zwart te maken.
Van der Donk spent about 3 years there, arguing the case of the colony before the government, and then governments being what they are, they take forever. And so he hits on some other projects. One, he writes a book. He wrote, first of all, the remonstrance, the vertoog, to present to the States General. Mm-hmm. He used that, then he took portions of it and turned it into a popular book, the description of New Netherland. And that he got published, and it became something of a bestseller. In that book, he described in glowing, lush details what this land was like, what the trees were like, the flora and the fauna, and he described the Indians, their way of life, their way of government, and he's promoting it. He's basically saying, come here and join us in this new world.
De manier waarop hij dat doet is uniek. Er is geen andere beschrijving van Nieuw-Nederland die van hetzelfde gehalte is. Waar het bij hem op neerkomt, is dat hij begeisterd is door die kolonie. Hij ziet dat hier iets moois gedaan kan worden. En de WEC doet het niet. Ze sturen de verkeerde mensen. Laten we nou alsjeblieft hier wat moois van maken.
He had a little drawing, a watercolor, of the colony, which of the capital of New Amsterdam, which he brought to the States General, presumably to show the deplorable condition that it was now in, because it's a very forlorn little picture. However, while he was here, he had that turned into an engraving that was part of the map of the colony. And the transformation, I mean, every building is the same, but in this inset view, in this engraving, it's a pristine little village. It's like a little Dutch village on Manhattan. The city, the village is clean and neat. And that engraving then was published, and that was used to promote the colony. People became interested in this place. They read about it, and they became interested, and they wanted to go. They wanted to emigrate. So he arranged a ship, he arranged a captain, and sent them off.
Yeah, there's this poem that is written about the same time to sing about the beauty of Nieuw Nederland. Nieuw Nederland is het puik en edels van de landen. Een zegenrijk gewest, daar melk en honing vloeit. Daar de Allerhoogste heeft, met dubbel milde handen begaafd. Ja, opgevuld in hetgeen daar wast en groeit. De lucht, de aard, de zee zijn zwanger met haar gaven. Om die behoeftig is ook zonder moeite te laven. So they really, he promises.
You could just sit back
and yeah, it would be easy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's go.
Let's go. Door de eeuwen heen is er nauwelijks een plek te bedenken met een grotere aantrekkingskracht dan New York. Maar in de jaren 70 en 80 was het anders. De stad werd geteisterd door drugsmisbruik, moorden en overvallen en de blanke middenklasse zocht zijn heil buiten de stad. In sommige buurten durfde de politie zelfs niet eens meer te komen. Toch schuilde er voor mijn generatie ook romantiek in het verval. De songs van Lou Reed, de films Mean Streets en Taxi Driver, de tv-serie Hill Street Blues, die hoorden er allemaal bij. Het verderf was onderdeel van de unieke stadservaring. Terwijl New York zich klaarmaakte voor nog meer doemstijding, gebeurde wat niemand verwachtte. Begin jaren 90 begonnen de misdaadcijfers in de stad New York drastisch te dalen. Kwam ook door dat zero-tolerance-beleid van mayor Giuliani. De stad werd weer aantrekkelijk voor mensen met jonge kinderen. De geboortecijfers gingen omhoog. Mensen wilden hier wonen en gingen zich weer inzetten voor hun eigen leefomgeving. En New Yorkers zouden geen New Yorkers zijn als ze dat niet met luide stem en met veel overtuigingskracht deden.
And this is the famous Coney Island boardwalk and the beach where Henry Hudson first landed.
Yeah.
A day before discovering Manhattan, it was here at Coney Island. I have lived here for 30 years, and for 25 of those years I have been known on the local television in New York as the spokesman. I dress up when it is warmer as the mayor of Coney Island. I am not a real mayor. I am not elected. I have no politics except come to the parade, come see the fireworks. This is my pleasure, not the real politics. Over here, emerging from the fog, is the Wonder Wheel, which dates to 1920, an official landmark now protected.
I noticed, yeah.
It is hard to see in this weather, but the Cyclone roller coaster,
is also a
many
landmark.
people consider the best wooden roller coaster in the world. And it is foggy, you cannot see it, but I promise you, Brooklyn's Eiffel Tower, the parachute jump is just a few blocks this way. There were still very strong icons here, the foundation to rebuild Coney Island for the 21st century.
Still, you have different ideas about it than the developers have.
This is New York City, so the politics are intense. And there is a billionaire developer, Thor Equities, they basically want a shopping mall. So the fight is about culture. I am a New Yorker.
Yeah.
This place is a world city. It needs to be special. If it was all bowling alleys and gymnasiums and movies theaters, that is prosperous, but it is not unique. And to me, this is representative of American culture in a good way, if you believe in popular culture, that television, movies, the idea of outdoor recreation, all these terrible lowbrow ideas that came out of America, people like me are proud of. You see this sign here, Lola Star Gift Shop.
Yes, I see.
I think you should visit her. Her name is Diane. Like myself, she has passion for the amusements. She is one of the troublemakers with me. They kicked her out of her store, but you might find her today a few blocks down at the Lola Star roller skating rink.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
This is Lola's roller rink.
Lola Star's Dreamland Roller Rink, yes. I've definitely learned a lot about standing up for what you believe in, and then sometimes being rewarded for that, but also sometimes paying the price, like they're having serious repercussions for speaking out. And I recently lost my store on the boardwalk because I spoke out against the developers. They kicked me out of my store just for that reason. They forced all of the businesses in Coney Island to sign a confidentiality clause that said that you can't talk about Coney Island at all. And they forced everyone to sign this clause or they would be kicked out of their stores. So I refused to sign that agreement, refused to let them take away my freedom of speech.
That sounds really...
It's terrible. It's horrifying. Either give up your freedom to express yourself about a place that you love, your home, a place you feel so deeply about, or lose your business, your livelihood. Like, that is the question that ultimately I was faced with.
All of us have come here today from Coney Island to City Hall. Now, it was the amusement park people who are the pioneers of Coney Island. We started Coney Island. We are the original people to develop this neighborhood. And yet they are not listening to the interest of the amusement industry because there is an obstruction. And the obstruction is for equities. They've already turned the profit. It is time for them to go home. We are no fools. Thank you.
Spirit of Coney Island will prevail against this greed and selfishness that right now is making the climate in Coney Island seem pretty dismal. I think it's going to change, and I think we will ultimately triumph, and that Coney Island will be the fabulous place that it deserves to be once again. There's a saying in Coney Island that once you get the sand in your shoes, you're hooked, and you're sort of addicted to this feeling of Coney Island, and I'm definitely hooked. I love Coney Island.
Dit is een tentoonstelling in het Museum of the City of New York. Ja. Amsterdam, Nieuw Amsterdam, The Worlds of Henry Hudson. De belangrijkste lijnen die we proberen te trekken is dat zowel Amsterdam als Nieuw Amsterdam een enorme ontwikkeling doormaken. Amsterdam wordt de hoofdstad van de wereld, het centrum van de wereld zou je bijna zeggen. En Nieuw Amsterdam is dan eigenlijk nog maar een klein eilandje, een koloniaal eilandje. Wat ik wilde laten zien is dit. Een maquette van Nieuw Amsterdam. Wat we hier zien is het fort met de 4 punten. Wat zijn die gebouwen daarbinnen? Dit is de kerk in het fort. Barakken en kantoren. Daarvoor, wat nu Bowling Green is het begin van Broadway, de brede weg. En het loopt dan tot aan de wal, de palissade met een gracht daarvoor, wat nu Wall Street is. In die tijd werd het pad langs de wal genoemd. Wat we verder hier zien is Stuyvesant's grote huis. Flink paleisje. En daar, aan Pearl Street, toen aan de oever, nu niet meer, zien we het stadhuis van Nieuw Amsterdam.
We are standing within the perimeter of what was first the city tavern, because ships would anchor out there, people would come ashore here, and the first place they came to was the tavern.
To
and
have
they would
a beer.
immediately come into the tavern.
Right.
And sit down and chat. And this then became the place where the opposition figures would meet. They would meet in the tavern and discuss how they were going to deal with Stuyvesant and so on. And they turned this into the Stadthouse. If you follow the gray stone around here, it outlines the perimeter of the building. So you can see how small, I mean, everything was very small in this place. And this was outside the fort, this was the largest structure in town. And you can see
the largest
very small
structure
indeed.
in town.
Yeah.
Nieuw Amsterdam was een havenstad. Een stad van kroegen, kapers en hoeren. Maar het gewone leven was er natuurlijk ook. De familie rond de haard, vader leest voor uit de Bijbel, er wordt in de tuin gewerkt. Het werd geleidelijk een ordentelijke stad, waar ook de minder avontuurlijke dromen van het leven werkelijkheid konden worden. In het huidige New York is Gramercy Park waarschijnlijk een van de allerordentelijkste plekken. En de appartementen hieromheen behoren tot de allerduurste van de stad.
This is Gramercy Park. the only private park really in this country, although they say there's another one somewhere, but they never quite prove it. I'm a trustee of the park, which means I'm responsible for everything that goes on in the park, the maintenance, the horticulture, the security, the rules. There are many rules, and I oversee it all, and I love doing it. I'm passionate about Gramercy Park. I wish I could invite you in, but there's no filming in Gramercy Park. Well, we get requests, I would say about 3 times a week, from people like Robert De Niro, Woody Allen, Oprah, and one of our many rules is there's no filming at all in Gramercy Park, so I'm going to have to tell you, you have to stay out. Sorry. Hi. How are you, Mondo? Hi, Mrs. Green. How are you feeling?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you out.
Thank you.
This is our first beautiful day. We've had such a long winter. We're really having a problem more than ever with the squirrels destroying the trees, the flowers, the plantings.
Excuse me, Arlene.
Yes.
Could you be allow me to come inside if I
Not
leave
with them, no.
if I leave the camera crew behind?
Yes, you can come in as my personal guest, but
I'd love
I've got to
to.
make sure that
No,
these
no,
guys...
they will stay outside.
All right, thanks, Armando. Let me let my friend in.
This is...
Come on in, Dirk.
Hi.
Welcome to Gramercy Park.
Great.
I'm happy to have you here.
This is the famous key.
Oh, yes, let me show you this very key. People think that it's going to be a very odd-looking key, but actually it's sort of an ordinary-looking key. However, it cannot be duplicated. And by the way, if you live in any of these buildings, you are allowed to purchase your own key for only $350, so that's a bargain. We tell people who live here how they can support the park. They can just give money, which is, we love that. They could endow a bench. This is a bench that with a plaque. Here's a brass plaque. This is $7,500. People can endow a tree.
A tree?
Yeah, people can.
How much for a little tree like this?
If you want a plaque, it's $20,000. You can purchase as little as $5,000 for shrubbery and things. A certain size tree is $10,000. Oh my goodness, look who's here. My wonderful friend.
Who is it?
This is Tom Pike. Now, he's very modest, Tom Pike. I want you to, this is Derek.
How are you?
Hi, Derek. Nice to see you.
Hi.
And he's one of the leaders of the whole community. He's very involved in everything that goes on in the park and in the neighborhood.
Well, I have a question, Tom.
Sure.
This fence, it is kind of intimidating, all these closed gates.
A lot of people ask about the fence, and the fence, when it was first built, was built to protect from animals and so forth. But most of all, the park is the way it is to recall the way Manhattan was in the earliest times. But as time went on, people found that just the greenery brought peace to their hearts. It's a very important spiritual thing in the city, and the way to preserve it, its peace and its beauty has been to have the fence around it.
And you don't have to come in the park to really love the park. They see this wonderful greenery instead of seeing cement and glass and steel, which is
so
the
there is a let's
spiritual.
Say, there's a moral lesson almost in the fact that you have to take care of this precious park.
Yes, we're very enthusiastic about that. We feel like we're doing something not just for ourselves by preserving this park, but we're doing something for the whole city. So I would say, when you get home, take a good look at your environment and try to do what you can to preserve and cherish those places that people find peace and joy in.
Uiteindelijk zou Adriaan van der Donck pas in 1653, 4 jaar na zijn vertrek, terugkeren naar het land waarvan hij zoveel was gaan houden. Door het uitbreken van een oorlog met Engeland waren zijn pogingen om meer rechten te krijgen voor de inwoners van de kolonie op niets uitgelopen. De half-militaristische West-Indische Compagnie werd in deze roerige tijden nieuw leven ingeblazen en voorvechters voor burgerrechten waren voor de machthebbers plotseling oproerkraaiers geworden. Ontmoedigd en terneergeslagen reisde Van der Donck terug naar Nieuw Amsterdam. Hij had moeten beloven als een gewone ingezetene te gaan leven. zich onderwerpend aan de compagnie en haar directeur.
And this was where he came back to, where we are now. This is Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. And this, not just this park, but this whole section north of Manhattan, from the tip of land north of Manhattan, extending for 65,000 acres.
Huge.
A massive area of land that was given to him. And he built a home here, basically right where right we're standing, probably situated looking up this valley.
Yeah.
And so he devoted himself, presumably, to his land and to his wife. What happened was, 17 years earlier, the Swedes decided they wanted to plant a new world colony, and they called it New Sweden, on the Delaware River. For 17 years, this irked the directors of the New Netherland colony, but they had so few men at their disposal. Finally, in 1655, Stuyvesant sailed down to New Sweden, and he kicked them out. Now, this is speculation, but I think pretty good speculation. The Swedes had a deal with the Indians there, the Susquehannock Indians, so that they could do business with them. Stuyvesant comes south and
destroys them
and takes away the Swedish population. The Susquehannock Indians are annoyed at this. So, not long after this happens, there's a sudden bewildering Indian attack all over New Amsterdam and the surrounding area. Now, right here, Van der Donck lived, and he had good relations with the Indians around here. So presumably, it was Indians from elsewhere who didn't know the lay of the land, so to speak, who attacked here, and Van der Donck was killed.
So, you could say that without knowing it, Stuyvesant was in a sense responsible for the death of his opponent.
Yeah, and I think probably at the time, no one was aware of that connection.
Hij is maar 37 jaar geworden, Adriaan van der Donck. En hij was na zijn dood snel vergeten. Maar toch heeft hij een erfenis nagelaten. Wat hij wilde was zelfbestuur voor de burgers van Nieuw Amsterdam. En uiteindelijk in 1653 kwam dat er ook. Je zou kunnen zeggen dat hij na zijn dood toch nog gelijk heeft gekregen. In opdracht van de Staten-Generaal een echte gemeenteraad. Gebaseerd op de gewoonten en gebruiken van de stad Amsterdam.
One of every 6 Coney Island residents lives in NYCHA housing. This is an aging population with more than 1/4 of all residents over 60 years of age. This is also a community that suffers.
What are we looking at?
This is an interesting case because it involves a man by the name of Bout. He refused to serve as a schepen. He would be on like the town council. He was a friend of Van der Donck and had gone to the Netherlands with Van der Donck originally. He was fairly well-to-do. If you were given the right to operate as a merchant and gain all of the privileges of being a merchant, making money and so forth, you had to serve the community. With the privileges came obligations. You had to be prepared to assume various offices if you were nominated for them.
But he refused.
He refused.
What happened?
Well, Stuyvesant said, if you don't, if you want to refuse being a schepen, basically you can go back to where you came from, and he probably would have been sent out of the colony.
And that is in this document.
And it's in this document. Stuyvesant had to come down hard on this guy as an example to others. It's as simple as that.
Moest Peter Stuyvesant de rijke koopman Bout nog op zijn verantwoordelijkheden wijzen? Tegenwoordig is iets terugdoen de algemene norm. Nog niet zo lang geleden behoorden de allerrijksten tot de bekende mensen van de stad. Maar met de toestroom van grote hoeveelheden cash naar Manhattan werd deze groep alsmaar groter en het bijzondere ging eraf. Nu krijg je in New York al lang geen status en bekendheid meer door het bezit van veel geld, maar door het weggeven ervan.
Dit is het huidige 188ste nummer van The Paris Review, een Amerikaans literair tijdschrift. Het bestaat al lang. En toen ik 17, 18 jaar oud was, stroopte ik alle antiquariaten en tweedehands boekwinkels af op zoek naar exemplaren van dat tijdschrift. Daar stonden de interviews in, de stukken van de Amerikaanse schrijvers die ik bewonderde. Wie had kunnen denken dat ik een paar decennia later hier zou zijn? Bij een fundraiser om dat tijdschrift in leven te houden.
This is the 6th year we've done it. And ever since we started doing it, the Paris Review came out of debt. And it's just been wonderful for the Paris Review.
How much would it be for a seat?
You know, I'm on the board.
Right.
But I have to pay to come. And I buy a table.
Yeah.
And I pay $10,000 for a table.
You pay $500, you're near the kitchen. You pay $10,000, you're up by the podium, by the stage, right? Okay. Yeah, very democratic. People will complain and whine and carry on that they have a bad seat. But the seating's very democratic.
Yeah. Could you point out the most expensive tables then?
Oh, probably right in front.
Probably right in front.
The one that's right.
The two tables over there.
The three in the front row.
Are probably $25,000, right?
Probably. We have one $50,000. You've got to ask for the money.
You have to ask for
it. You can't call up and say, you know, we're having a revel and you got to say, you've got to say, I want 10 G's from you. And then there's an interesting psychological process that's going on behalf of the person you've done that to.
Yeah.
Well, gee, if I don't give my share, then he will think I don't have any money.
It's sales. The whole thing is sales.
It's the idea that nothing's bestowed on anybody. You earn it and you pay it back. I think that's
because you remember.
I wouldn't agree that it's quite that altruistic. I think that people want to give back, but they want to be known as giving back, because otherwise everybody would be an anonymous donor.
So, you know, actually, we have a competition going, the two of us.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, she has PEN USA, which is a famous organization, PEN America, that protects writers. And I have, so to speak, the Paris Review, which promotes writers. So she protects them. And I promote them.
This is the famous Ben Bradley of the Washington Post, editor-in-chief, the guy who did the whole Watergate.
Oh, sure, all by myself.
There would never have been Watergate, and I'm introducing him to Dirk.
What are your feelings about this kind of fundraising for a literary magazine?
Well, I mean,
you think that needs to be done, or?
Well, it needs to be done. If they're going to survive, it needs to be done. I think this is a little bit much, don't you? I mean, look at the size of this room.
Well,
it takes some to
get some.
Okay.
That's good.
Dirk is becoming an American very quickly. We have to introduce Sally Quinn, author, TV star, everything. Sally and Ben have done a lot for philanthropy in D.C. They practically ran the Children's Hospital.
You know, the last 3 years I bought a table and I've never been able to use it. This time I'm being invited actually to come by a friend of mine.
Okay.
That's not bad.
No.
Wonderful.
That's good. But you should buy a table at Penn, which is in 2 weeks.
She's got PEN America, or whatever she calls it, which is to protect writers. She comes over here, this is my event, and she comes over and she takes all the people away that are giving money here and makes them give money to her thing.
The thing is, Bill, this is my husband's thing, as you know, Jamie's thing.
Right.
But my event is in 2 weeks.
And what's that event?
I would like you, that's Penn American Center.
Oh, okay.
You know, which is also, if not even better than this event, because it's so important to writers. And I would actually like you to take a $25,000 table for my event, even though you've been wonderful about being here tonight. What do you say?
Well, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for us. So you can't say no to Tony Goodale. That's for sure. Such an expensive kiss. I gotta watch her every minute, that one. Is she doing it? Where is she, by the way? We're supporters of the Paris Review, yeah. 1 or 2 tables, yeah. But we believe in literature. I was a classics major, Latin and Greek, so I believe in this stuff.
I want to say goodbye to you.
We had so much fun. I hope to see you in Amsterdam.
I hope you raise a lot of money for the Paris Review.
Thank you.
I enjoy reading it. I'm going to give you my card. I hope we'll meet again.
You will, I'm
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you soon.
Good evening, and welcome to the Paris Review Spring Revel 2009. It's been a great work of our board of directors who
is augustus 1664 en er wordt alarm geslagen op het fort op de punt van Nieuw Amsterdam. Wat is er aan de hand dan?
Nou, er was al bericht gekomen dat er Engelse schepen in Boston waren aangekomen. En die hadden het waarschijnlijk gemunt op Nieuw Amsterdam. En eind augustus worden die schepen inderdaad gesignaleerd. Die liggen dan daar, net als de Governor's Island en Gravesend. En dan krijg je de gebruikelijke onderhandelingen. De Nederlanders vragen aan de Engelsen, wat komen jullie doen? Ja. En de Engelsen zeggen, jullie beginnen je op Engels gebied, je moet je overgeven. En op een gegeven moment wordt er een ultimatum gesteld. En dan, nog voordat het ultimatum afloopt, komen de Engelse schepen vandaar aan om hier in Brooklyn troepen te landen. Stuyvesant zit dan natuurlijk daar, op het fort. Ja. En hij moet dan de beslissing nemen als de schepen binnen schootsafstand komen van gaan we schieten of gaan we niet schieten.
Hier zien we een, nou ja, beschrijf het zelf maar. Het is een
Stuyvesant echt die de beslissing moet nemen, wordt er geschoten of wordt er niet geschoten. Dit is een
dramatische scène.
Het is dramatisch natuurlijk.
Stuyvesant wants to fight. The townspeople knew that they were not going to win, that they would be taken, and that people would be killed and property destroyed. Yeah. And the nature of the dispute was over the West India Company and how it had run things all along. The people under Van der Donck and the whole opposition party had complained for years, saying, give us a feeling of ownership.
Yeah.
And the West India Company, and Stuyvesant in particular, didn't want that. They wanted them to be treated like serfs working for the company. Now, Stuyvesant's saying, put your lives at risk for this. And the people are saying, why should we? You didn't want to give us that kind of sense of ownership.
En dan komt predikant Johannes Megaplensis, die hem met een bijbelwoord ervan overtuigt dat het beter is om niet tegen een overmacht te gaan vechten. In de onderhandelingen is afgesproken, zoals dat altijd gaat bij een overgave, dat het garnizoen gewoon het fort mag uitmarcheren met trommels, met vaandels.
Met geheven hoofd?
Met geheven hoofd, met geladen wapens. En de soldaten worden met...
Waarheen? Grappig eigenlijk.
Ja, maar waar ze naartoe gaan is naar een van de WEC-schepen.
Oh, oké.
Er ligt een schip klaar. De Gideon, dat heeft net 291 slaven afgeleverd in Nieuw Amsterdam. En dat schip gaat vervolgens met de soldaten naar de Republiek.
In a way, it was the luckiest thing in the world for New York, for America, that the Dutch lost it. Because it benefited first from the fact that it was a Dutch colony at the time of the Dutch Empire, when the Dutch infused this place, whether consciously or not, with this idea of tolerance and free trade. And that those seeds began to nurture here. Then what happens is the Dutch lose it, the English take over at the moment when the English Empire is beginning to rise, and it benefits from that. And in fact, for a time, this is a node on the trade routes of both of these empires. Dutch ships keep coming in, British ships keep coming in, so this then really becomes the island at the center of the world for a time. And there were a number of takeovers in a period of about 30 years where they swapped it back and forth, the English and the Dutch. And the people who were living here, who had been New Amsterdammers, then were New Yorkers, and then back, basically said, whatever European power thinks they're in control, we have to sort things out for ourselves. And so they begin to fashion a new identity as New Yorkers.